Boston, Massachusetts, January 15, 1919, 12:40 p.m. You're standing on Commercial Street when the ground begins to shake. Not from an earthquake, not from an explosion, but because a massive steel tank has just ruptured without warning, unleashing over 2.3 million gallons of molasses that surge through the city at nearly 35 miles per hour. The wave rises 25 feet high, ripping buildings from their foundations, flipping streetcars, crushing horses, and trapping people where they stand as the street turns into a suffocating, sticky death trap. Men, women, and children are knocked down, buried alive, and slowly pulled under, and by the end of the day 21 people are dead, dozens more injured, and an entire neighborhood destroyed. To understand how this could happen, you have to understand Boston in 1919. World War I had just ended, America was industrializing at full speed, and molasses wasn't just food, it was fuel, money, and profit, used to produce industrial alcohol for ammunition and rum. At the center of this story stood a massive steel tank owned by the United States Industrial Alcohol Company, 50 feet tall and holding millions of gallons of fermenting molasses. But the tank had problems from the beginning. It leaked constantly, so badly that local children collected the dripping molasses in jars, while residents complained, workers warned management, and engineers questioned the tank's integrity as its steel walls flexed under pressure. The company's solution was simple: paint the tank brown so the leaks wouldn't be visible. No proper testing, no safety inspections, no evacuation plans. Inside the tank, pressure kept building as fermentation produced gas and winter temperatures weakened the steel, until on January 15th a sudden rise in temperature caused the metal to expand and internal pressure to spike. At 12:40 p.m., rivets shot out like bullets, steel plates tore apart, and the tank exploded outward, sending a wave of molasses racing through the streets faster than a man could run. People were swept off their feet instantly, buildings collapsed, a streetcar was lifted and smashed, and horses drowned where they stood, unable to free themselves from the thick liquid. Survivors later said it felt like trying to move through wet cement, as some victims suffocated, others were crushed by debris, and many were simply trapped and pulled under while the sweet, heavy smell of molasses filled the air. Firefighters, police officers, sailors, and civilians rushed to help, wading into the sticky flood, forming human chains, and pulling survivors free with ropes and boards. But as night fell and temperatures dropped, the molasses thickened even more, turning nearly solid and trapping people beneath the surface, where some froze to death before help could reach them. The cleanup took weeks, with salt water pumped from the harbor to wash the streets and sand spread to absorb the residue, and for years afterward residents claimed that on hot summer days the city still smelled faintly of molasses. But the story didn't end there, as families of the victims demanded justice and filed a massive lawsuit against the company, which claimed sabotage and denied responsibility until evidence proved the tank was poorly designed, never properly tested, and built without adequate engineering oversight. After 6 years of legal battles, the court ruled against the company, forcing it to pay damages and setting a landmark precedent for corporate responsibility and industrial safety. The Boston molasses flood changed building codes, safety inspections, and engineering standards across the United States, proving that negligence could no longer be hidden behind profit, because on January 15th, 1919, Boston didn't burn, didn't collapse in war, and didn't flood with water. It drowned in molasses, in a disaster so strange it sounds fictional, so horrifying it reshaped the law, and so real that its legacy is still remembered today.